Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. Is there a man who's never dreamed of becoming a martial master? A life of heroes upholding justice and honor. A life of a hero journeying the world. The sound they create is completely different from the average man, and surely everyone has dreamed of having such a life at some point. But it's not something that all can experience. As we hear the sounds of a hammer clinking into an anvil, a blacksmith is working very hard on something, living his everyday life as is everyone else in this city. Kids are fighting, of course, with the same dreams of becoming a martial artist, but this story is going to revolve around this blacksmith, and he says that the fact that people can't experience a life of a hero is what draws everyone to fantasize about it. As we see him inspecting his work, he walks over, handing it to the client, saying that these are the acupuncture needles he ordered. His name is Tang, and he is 20-year-old physician. He holds up the needle, saying that the sound can awaken a dreaming boy, turning him into a hero. The client inspects it, and then starts smiling, asking if he said he was a physician. Mujin says yes, and the man offers him to become his disciple. Mujin looked like it was very unexpected, and that was the day that he heard the sound of his life changing. A few months back, he says that a physician's morning is really quiet. He copies medical scrolls until the morning rooster crows, then organizes the shelves, and sweeps, and makes sure that every one of his tools are nice and clean. He finishes preparations for that day's patients before breakfast is even ready. It's a quiet life that's on repeat for him. We hear an old man telling the little boy that it'll sting, as he puts the acupuncture needles into his shoulder. He then laughs, asking the boy if it still hurt, and the kid says that it doesn't. The physician then gives him a candy for behaving so well as the other kids watch. It makes them look more excited for their turn. Mujin says that that painless treatment is what really created his father's skills, and that his acupuncture skills are amazing. He says, gentle as a butterfly landing on your skin. Someday, he too hopes to be a physician of that level, as he tells his father he'll be back with the herbs, and he runs off, dashing across a bridge. We see that he's actually loved by all of the townsfolk, and that everybody seems to recognize him. As he's running, he's looking behind, and he bumps into a man. He wonders why it's in the middle of the road, and a martial artist glares down at him, asking if he's walking with his eyes closed. Mujin apologizes, saying that was a mistake. The martial artist says that he needs to teach him a lesson, and we hear a very loud sound. Mujin says that he still dreams of being a hero. It jumps to the herb gatherer's cabin, as he's laughing at Mujin for getting his shit rocked. He says he can't believe he got beat up, and we learn that his name is Zhang Guok, and he's a 20-year-old herb gatherer. Guok says that he should have asked him to hit him in the other eye as well, so the colors could match. He then starts making fun of him, reenacting the scenario, and asks if he wants another black eye. He can pretend to be dressed up as a panda. Mujin pokes him in his eye instead, and they start yelling at each other, some friendly banter. After a while of scrapping, they both look tired, and Guok asks him if he's hungry. Mujin says he is, so Guok offers to go get something good. By good, he takes out a mushroom, and Mujin asks why he has that, and if he's really messing with him, saying he needs to know when to stop. Guok tells him that it's a mushroom that'll let him experience special kinds of dreams. Our boy's about to go on a psychedelic trip. Mujin asks about the dreams, and Guok picks off a chunk of it, and shoves it into his mouth, saying that this could let him become the king of kings, or an ascended sage. Last time, he dreamed of being a pinnacle realm martial artist. Mujin seems surprised, and Guok continues, saying that he handled over 100 Quancheng sect martial artists in his dream, and he could feel the sensation so well, and that the mushrooms is not poisonous to the body. Mujin inhales the entire thing. As Guok tells him that he can't do that, Mujin asks what's wrong, saying that if a single bite will let him have the experience of a pinnacle realm martial artist, he might actually be able to have body and sword unification, becoming the master of swords. Guok says there's no way the effect's kicking as quickly, but it's his body, so he's not responsible if something goes wrong. Mujin tells him that he's a physician, so he knows things just by looking at them. Guok says the effect should hit soon, so they should wait. Mujin begins drooling, saying that he already knows he's a physician. Guok looks worried, because Mujin just keeps repeating it, and his trip finally begins. As he starts going into his trip, we see a blacksmith whacking away at a rock that has hundreds of swords in it. Each and every clang sounds very heavy. Mujin says the embers tickle his skin like butterflies, but the sparks formed by the first strike of the hammer are always wondrous, and that he has hammered iron as a blacksmith his entire life, but this joyous moment never ceases to amaze him. He then snaps out of it, asking if he's really Mujin, saying that his name is Uyeji, and he's the master of smithing, who's unparalleled under the heavens. He chips the side of the blade while he's lost in thought, saying that he can't believe he did that, and he can't believe he even thought about himself being a physician, as he must have just been tired. He tosses the sword into the fire, saying that he should get himself together. He will craft the 5 master swords requested to him by the king of the Yews. He says they will be the best work of his life, and he'll make sure he gives it his all in the name of Yeji, as he keeps hammering away at the heart of a volcano. As day and night continued to go by, years passed, and finally the 5 swords were complete. There's Zonlu, Juk, Shengxi, Yuchong, and Chunjin, the 5 master swords forged by heaven and man for 20 years, all ought to praise their glory, as we see Yeji ascending, as he has accomplished the dreams of man, and the orders of the heaven, and that they shall pour the heavenly peach wine, and greet their new immortal. Everybody starts cheering, saying it's a grand day for Yeji, as they all have their drinks out. Some immortal ladies fly in, bringing a seat, and they say that it's the day that he has finally reached paradise. One of the flowers starts flying in, hitting the girl in the face, causing her to drop the cup straight onto Yeji's head. It jumps to Mujin waking up on the floor, as a man is storming out, saying he trusted the attendant of the governor's recommendation, but he will ensure that such a novice physician who cannot even perform acupuncture is forced into retirement. As he storms away, Mujin raises up, and looks over at Guok, who says that that dude's an asshole, just like all the other government officials. Mujin asks what happened just now, saying that he took the shrooms, but Guok asks what he's talking about, as the sun's already setting. He kept murmuring some nonsense high on the mushrooms, then he suddenly said he needed to return back to the clinic, and it's a miracle that they were able to arrive back at his place without any issues. Guok says that it's over now, and he shouldn't tell his father that he gave him the shroom. Mujin thanks him as he leaves, but Guok's just calling him an idiot. Mujin though stares up at the Tang family signboard, and wonders if that was really just a dream. He then tells his father he's back, as we see blood at the tip of his father's needle. Mujin apologizes for being late, saying he went to get the herbs. He notices his father lost in thought, and starts yelling out to him to get his attention. His father turns, saying that he didn't actually see him get back. Mujin asks who that man was that just left. But then he starts getting a weird frequency from the needle, and he starts recalling all the memories of Yeji, and it starts to give him a migraine. He also has an overflowing feeling between waves of pain, and he wonders what this emotion is. His father asks if his head hurts, and Mujin says it's nothing, but asks about the man who just left. His father says that he's the military attendant to the governor, but says that his acupuncture is too painful, as his new needles are thicker than the old ones. Mujin says that he tested them this morning, though. His father shows him that he just bought new needles since the other ones were bent, and Mujin says that he could hear a strange vibration from the needles, but he didn't hear anything like this morning. He holds onto his head, and his father wonders what's wrong, asking him if he has a cold, since he's shivering as well, but Mujin says it's too noisy. His father says he'll go grab some medicine, but Mujin grabs his hand, taking the needle out of it. He says, and if you recall earlier about the sound that awakens heroes, as Mujin's clenching onto the needle, he yells, asking how the fuck this is a needle, and Mujin says that he heard that sound that day, as we see his eyes lighting up, and an aura starts to envelop the needles, and his father slaps him in the head, saying of course it's a needle, wondering why he's so mad at it. Mujin, although, is still pissed off, saying that when he sees a shitty item it irritates him. Until yesterday, he couldn't even tell what was a bad item or not, but suddenly because of this ability, every time he's walking through downtown, he sees bad item after bad item being sold, and it's just driving him insane. He says that he doesn't know what to do with this feeling, but still looking at the old needles he feels refreshed, and that this is definitely the pride of one of their best blacksmiths. But he wonders how he even knows this, saying that besides, this new needle must have also been made by the blacksmith, so why does it feel different? And he hopes this isn't something serious. He heads over to the smithy that we saw earlier, and he's looking at all the swords, and instantly feels refreshed and excited. He says that all of his irritation disappears as soon as he holds onto it. There's no way Blacksmith Sock's work would change. He then picks out one of them, looking at it, and says maybe it could be because of the dream he had as Yeji, and maybe that dream allowed him to recognize a true master's work. But it's not just that, as there's a deeper thing. He feels as if he can actually see through Sock's whole workflow at a single glance, and he wonders if it really could be because of that dream, and if he's gained an insight he didn't have before. He looks up, wondering, saying that there's no sense, as a dream is just a dream. There's no way he could learn blacksmithing through it, as that would be impossible. Because if that was true, that means his dumbass friend is at the pinnacle of martial arts. He steps in, saying that he needs to confirm this. He must go to Blacksmith Sock himself, and find out what's happened to him. We hear a different man screaming, asking if he doesn't like the needle. Mujin looks a bit scared, and the guy says that he may not be as good as his father, as this is Sock's son, named Jizung. He says that he's been in and out of the forge for 20 years, and he should not treat him like an amateur. Mujin says that he never said he lacked skill. Mujin says that it's unfortunate that Sock retired. As he's getting spit on, he says that no wonder there are only a few refreshing works left, and that everything else new and shitty must have been created by Jizung. Jizung then sighs, saying that he knows it's hard to live up to his father, but now even the clinic's people are belittling him. He says that if he has such a sharp eye, he should try finding his father's works among all the ones out here, and teach him about what he's lacking compared to his father, saying surely he won't be able to tell the difference, but instantly, Mujin brings out all of his father's swords, which surprises him. He says that in an instant he picked them out, saying that the difference is really that big. Jizung says most people overlook them because of their simple designs, and he sure does have an impressive eye. Mujin says he definitely planned to mock him if he had failed. Thanks to him, he's convinced that dream wasn't only just a dream. Jizung says at first he thought he was just a picky customer, and he gets why he didn't like the needle he made. Although he was the one who asked for him to find his father's work, he managed to select every last one of his father's pieces, and that his eye surpasses his for sure. And even if he hammers away endlessly, he can only end up creating a mediocre thing, and that leaves only a single option. Mujin must craft something himself. As he puts the hammer in his hand, Mujin is just surprised as he's looking down at the forge. He thinks about it. Jizung says that if he thinks it's impossible, he'll craft another needle himself, but he should try. Mujin says okay, after all, when else in life could he get the chance to act as a blacksmith? He takes off his shirt, saying that he's ready to go straight for it. He starts to throw in some coal and logs, and starts to get the fire ready, saying it's time to start with some simple practice. He shouted with confidence, trusting the knowledge he got from that dream, but doesn't know if it's going to work. He takes out a lump of metal, raising the hammer high. He says it's like asking a patient to prepare their own medicine and needle themselves. He holds it tightly as he starts whacking away at it. He says still, he wants to try hammering. Jizung looks surprised as Mujin is whacking away at it. He can feel it actually working, and he gets excited, saying that this is extremely fun. Jizung is watching as Mujin whacks away at it. Jizung, watching in surprise, says at first he thought he'd laugh at what he'd do, but his hammer blows are flawless. Unlike a physician, he's a natural just like his own father, who spent his life forging metal. This sound makes it ring like a clear musical note. He wonders if he's witnessing the reincarnation of Yeji himself, asking if this is truly just talent. He says rather this surpasses talent. As Mujin pulls out a blade, we see it exuding an aura of masterwork already. Jizung says he needs to sharpen this blade, and show him how he makes the handle and the sheath. He wants to see the complete weapon that exists in his mind. Mujin drops it onto the ground, and Jizung wonders what he's doing, but Mujin says he wants to melt this piece down. Jizung asks why, and Mujin says his arms are warmed up enough. So now it's time for him to make a proper needle. Jizung nods his head, saying that he might as well, since that was the reason he's here after all, and they start ripping the fire once more. Here we see the needle from Mujin's father going into a man's shoulder. The guy who stormed out is asking the general attendant if he's serious, asking how that cannot hurt. Then that guy gets it as well, saying that his back pain has gone instantly. Another old dude says there's no way it would be better so quickly, before he gets his done as well. They ask if the needle was really inserted, since it feels so painless. And the old man from before wonders if maybe that it was just an off day. They say that this is insane, but then the line just continues to get crazier and crazier at Mujin's father's house. Everybody's walking out feeling instantly refreshed, and honestly glowing a lot even though they old as hell. The line's so big it's even hanging out the street down the bridge. And it's genuinely the talk of the town, as everybody seems to be yapping about it throughout the entire city, even out in the mountains, showing just the impact that proper craftsmanship has on his father's workplace that matches his skills. At a nearby inn, two travelers begin approaching it, saying that they should have visited the Tang family clinic before leaving the city. The other dude says that he wanted to, but the line was hella long, he couldn't even get inside because of how many people were waiting. We see a man interested in their conversation as they walk by. He decides to go check it out as he heads to town. As there's still a line at their clinic, on the other side we hear people yelling about somebody cutting in line, and a man yells, asking if he doesn't know who he is, and then we hear people screaming. Mujin turns the corner, wondering what's with the commotion. As we see a blade pointed at another man's throat, and that it was the man from the inn, and he looks absolutely pissed. Mujin says this is a fight between martial artists. And that dude says if he's that eager to know, then he'll show him firsthand. Mujin sees blood flying, and starts running in, straight towards the man who got cut on his chest. Mujin begins to apply pressure to stop the bleeding, but then is surprised to see that he actually carved out the name, eccentric physician, in blood on his chest. He says with a single strike, he only cut the skin without harming bone, or muscle, and that he's a martial master, and that title is definitely something he's heard before. The eccentric physician says that he's a grown man, yet he's gonna cry like a child, to faint from such a small cut, he barely scratched him, all he has to do is apply medicine for a few days, and he'll be fine. Mujin then realizes what it is. As the man's laughing, saying this isn't even a proper clinic, Mujin says that this man is none other than a physician killer, and that he is the eccentric physician named Li Chung. We get a flashback to Mujin, saying that any time he looked at his father's work, it would always make him super proud of him. He may not be the best physician in the lands, but like a strong tree that holds its place, he's a physician that may not be flashy, and is resilient. That is the proper attitude of a physician he had learned from watching his father, and this man Chung is the opposite of what he has learned. He is a martial artist in the pinnacle realm who roams the land. One of the three greatest physicians under the heavens. He is an eccentric man who decides the fates of others with his sword, and medical skills. They say his fickle murders do not discriminate between good, or evil. Moreover, he is a serial killer who has slain several dozens of innocent physicians across the Jianghu. Which means that his father is in some severe danger at this very moment if his fate lies in Chung's hands. Mujin sees him walking away, and screams out to him, telling him that's his father's practicing chambers. He then starts screaming for his father, and a man stretches his hand out, putting it on Mujin's shoulder, telling him to calm down, as this is inevitable. This is one of the Quangcheng sect instructors named Jin Song. Mujin asks Song what he means, and says the branch leader could probably stop him. Song says that even his master will refuse to stand against the eccentric physician. Mujin tells him that he is a criminal though, and Song says that his master owes his life to him. Mujin can't believe that the eccentric physician saved the sect branch leader's life. He drops to his knees feeling defeated, and doesn't know what to do at all for his father. Song says that if he is worried due to his infamy, worry not. From what he has seen, the eccentric physician may be strange, but he is not evil at all. The door is slammed open, and Mujin is surprised as Chung walks by smiling. Mujin looks at his sword, and then his clothes, saying that they are all clean, and he sighs out of relief. Chung puts his hand on Mujin's shoulder, saying after listening to the physician Tang he heard there was quite a skilled blacksmith nearby, asking if Mujin knows where they are. Mujin says yes, and that he does. Chung then tells him to lead the way, and Mujin feels the sword bumping into his back. Mujin looks down at it, worried, praying it is his sword, and Chung asks him what he is doing, saying that he should be moving now, as he is busy. Mujin says yes sir, and heads to the forge. Chung asks if he is really saying that this kid made it. Mujin says that he did, and Chung starts laughing hella loudly, saying that he has heard that all the strangest things in the world occur here in Sichuan, and to think he'd hear that the son of a physician knows how to blacksmith. While Jizung asks who he is, and Mujin tells him. As Chung says it doesn't matter who made it, and that he should make him about 30 needles or so, and he gives him a piece of gold as payment. Mujin and Jizung look at it surprised, saying that's a gold ingot, and it's very real. Mujin takes it, thanking him, asking if he wants to go grab something to eat in the meantime, as he'll have them ready before the sun sets. Chung looks caught off guard, asking if he means by today. Mujin says yes, and Chung asks if he really doesn't mean in a few months. Mujin says that it'll be done today. Chung says that even the most renowned blacksmiths take several months, but Mujin says that a day is more than enough for him, as he's looking at the gold. Chung thinks he's lying because of his greed, saying that it's not a low-quality product, and it's not like he has prepared them already, and he's also a physician's kid. Mujin says he'll start right now, and it'll be higher quality than his father's since they're fresh out of the furnace, He tells him not to worry as he can really do it, and Jizung vouches for him. Chung, though, is just in disbelief. And then he starts to make his robe move. Revealing his sword, Mujin gets scared, saying he forgot how dangerous he was, but it was just Chung taking a seat, saying that he wants to see it, and he better keep his word. Mujin says alright, and the forge starts to erupt with smoke as they are getting it prepped. They're throwing in everything to keep it hot, and they start to get it ready. Chung watches, saying that crafting acupuncture needles is a grueling process that requires creating large quantities of wire, picking out only the best, and then grinding them down to a fine point. The needles owned by his father were not needles that could simply be explained as a lucky batch, and he'll watch with his own eyes. He says that his body is pretty good for a physician. And then he notices something as we hear the first strike, and he looks genuinely surprised, and his eyes start to light up. The strikes continue as Mujin tightens the grip on his hammer. He continues whacking at it over and over. Chung's eyes are glued onto it. As Mujin's whacking away at it, he then folds it in half, and breaks it, before continuously whacking away at it. Chung can't believe what he's witnessing, and a little later Mujin thanks him for waiting, saying that these are all the needles he requested. And that is when Chung asks for him to become his disciple, and Mujin is confused, asking why he would want him. Chung says that he doesn't think he should rot in this small town as a physician for the rest of his life, asking if he doesn't like the idea. Mujin says it's not like he's not interested, but he has duties to the clinic to attend to, and he was just getting acclimated to working in the forge. He said he wants him to be a disciple, but he's not sure what he can learn from him. Chung laughs, asking what he means. As he draws his blade, he throws something with his other hand, and instantly puts them back by his side, saying that he has 2 things he can teach him. Mujin asks what they are, and as it zooms in on the back, we see he actually cut through something on the table, as well as threw 3 needles into Jizung's shoulder in an instant. Chung says that he can teach him martial arts and medicine, asking if he's not interested. Mujin says not only is he a pinnacle realm, but he is one of the 3 greatest physicians. It's an opportunity to learn both things he's interested in, and it may be due to his infamy, but if he becomes his disciple, even the Quangcheng sect wouldn't be able to mistreat his family. Chung says it's convenient to travel with a quick and skilled blacksmith. Mujin asks if that's all, and Chung says in return he'll teach him just like he promised. Mujin says this is more like a contractual relationship than being a disciple. Chung says that if he would prefer to call it that, then sure. Asking what he would do for a patient with weak qi if their limbs are cold, and they begin to shiver. Asking how he would treat it. Mujin says that he must first treat his fluid imbalance first, so he would give him medicine made from poria and licorice roots. Chung says he passed the test, and that if he's smart enough to have memorized the Shang Han Lun and the Nai Jing text, he can learn martial arts. Mujin asks what they have to do with martial arts. Chung asks him what he thinks the strength of a martial artist is. Asking if he'd ever try to teach an idiot, he could serve them teachings on a golden plate, and they still wouldn't realize what they are. Those types of guys just swing around their sword their whole life, and stagnate at 3rd or 2nd rate. Mujin asks if that's it, and Chung says exactly. Such fools cannot understand the superiority of these needles. Mujin says that he's curious about something, asking if he thinks he has the potential to become a first-rate martial artist. Chung says that a student surpassing his master has more to do with the master's teaching skills than the student's talent, asking if he understands what he's saying. Mujin heads back home, saying that means that he'll at least attain exactly where Chung is, which is none other than the pinnacle realm. He gets super excited as he starts kicking and punching the air, saying pinnacle realm sounds really cool. He then rolls his ankle and falls over. His father then clears his throat, and Mujin gets up, apologizing for being late. His father looks down at him, and then starts shaking, putting his hands on his shoulder. Mujin asks what's wrong with him, and his father cries, saying that he was deathly afraid when he heard that he was taken by the eccentric physician. When he entered his chamber he thought he was just a curious fellow. Mujin says yes, and he's not as dangerous as the rumors claim him to be. His father says that Song assured him that that was the case, and it's good to see him safe, although he thought he was leading him to the blacksmith, wondering what took him so long. Mujin says that he actually wants him to become his disciple, so he has until tomorrow night to decide, and that he really is eccentric to think he would offer such a thing out of nowhere. Mujin's father doesn't say anything, and begins shaking, and Mujin calls out to him, asking why he stopped in place, before he runs off. He then instantly runs back, giving him some silver. Mujin asks what all this is for, and he says that he should go. Mujin asks why, because they've already been short on hands these days, and his title is the eccentric physician, and he was probably messing with him. His father says the clinic will be fine, now is the only time he'll be able to leave, and he should go out and explore the world. Mujin says he always thought his father as a sturdy tree guarding their town. His words made him realize something that may seem like common sense, but he didn't think about. His father was once a boy as well at one point, and he as well had dreams of becoming a martial artist. Mujin says that it's been 2 days since he has begun to learn martial arts. He succeeded in circulating ki around his body for the first time, and a new sensation in his body that he's never felt before. Days went by, and eventually, while it was still faint, his ki is undoubtedly growing within his body little by little. As he starts to exhale, he opens his eyes, wondering how he should put it, and he says he feels stronger, as if he has taken a step forward. He says that the only chance to leave is now, and he says that he thinks his ki has increased since yesterday. Chung says that's when martial arts is the most fun, and Mujin says he thinks he has some talent, as he said. Chung asks what he means, saying that he's not too bad, the speed at which he's gaining ki is average, though. Mujin says that he learned how to circulate it, which typically takes people 10 days, in just 2 days, and he says that his dream of Yeji blessed him with martial talent. Chung asks what he means, and throws the sword at him. Mujin catches it, and Chung holds up a stick, saying that if he's so confident, he wants to see how he fares with the sword, and he'll give him some teachings. If he can even scratch the hem of his clothes, he'll carry him on his back until they leave the province. He smiles excitedly. Mujin unsheathes the blade, asking if he's serious, telling him that this is a real blade, though, as it's sharp, and he might die. He asks how he could do that, and says maybe with his skills he could pull it off. He then smiles, saying that his only chance is a sneak attack, and as he tries it, he thinks Chung is distracted, but he expects it. Then says making the first strike sure is interesting, and he's gained some guts and talent in just 10 days. Mujin screams as he swings forward. Chung slowly raises his stick, meeting the sword. Mujin says that it's only a stick, and it didn't even get scratched by the sword. Chung tells him to grit his teeth, and Mujin asks what he's talking about. Chung begins laughing as there's a purple aura around his stick. Mujin wonders what's going on as the sword begins vibrating. He says that it might be more like a water current, rather, it's far more massive than that. As Mujin starts to get flung backwards just from colliding attacks with him, we even see some smoke off in the distance. Mujin begins throwing up, and Chung asks how it is, and how his thoughts are on receiving his internal energy for the first time. Mujin says this makes no sense, that the guy with the most internal energy is supposed to be the strongest. Chung laughs, saying that he understands why he thinks that, but he doesn't have that much internal energy himself, so he tends to avoid fighting with pure chi. However, martial arts aren't that simple. He wonders what he's getting so worked up about, as a physician, asking if he has someone he wants to beat up or something. Mujin says that he said he would make him at the pinnacle level, which he will now call the peak, and if the amount of internal energy is all that matters, then becoming a peak master after starting training now is impossible. Chung hits him on the head with a stick, saying that even if his internal energy is weak, and he doesn't have flashy techniques, there are other ways to become a master. A moment ago when he took his internal energy, he also tried to resist by infusing his own into the sword before pulling back, saying that 2 is a good choice, and they should try it again, and this time he won't use his internal energy. Mujin looks a bit worried, but decides that he's going to do it, and readies himself as he shakes his head. He then starts to lean forward, and goes into a full leap, saying that he's going to try it once more. He swings, cutting into the stick. Seeing it chip a little makes him excited, but Chung easily walks past him. We see Mujin get hit 3 times, 1 on the forehead, 1 in the neck, and 1 in the chest, and he falls onto the floor. Chung says even without internal energy, he would have just died 3 times. His speed of accumulating internal energy isn't actually that fast, and he doesn't have a special constitution that lets him handle a large amount of internal energy at once. However, what he does have is that his ki sensitivity is good, and his control over internal energy is fast and precise. For a guy whose swordsmanship is third-rate, just infusing internal energy into his sword is at minimum the reaction of a second-rate or higher martial artist. If he keeps fumbling around, that too will become his path, but to be at this level in just a few days is very excellent. Mujin asks if that's what he thinks it means, and if he is already a second-rate martial artist, saying that he's a genius. Chung smacks his head, saying that he shouldn't have praised him. There's then a rustling in the bushes, and when they turn over, they see a shadow off in the distance. Chung crouches down as the guy gets closer, and we see that he looks like a beggar. We see 3 knots on his waist, and Chung asks what a branch chief is doing in these mountains. Turns out there's a strange disease, and there's a string of funerals in the village, so he set out to find a doctor in another town. For them to readily agree to come with him, he couldn't be luckier. This guy's name is Hong Husin. Chung says that it's crazy that he wanders for a day and a half on a journey that should only take 4 hours, even if he doesn't have a sense of direction. That sounds unreasonable. Husin says that he's never left the village in his entire life, though. Mujin says that it's a relief that he hasn't caught that strange disease. Husin says that he and his master were fortunate. About a month ago, the villagers started getting sick. He thought they were just the usual coughing patients that you see in spring, but the number of sick people grew to more than half the village, and 20 have died. He tried to leave with the people fleeing the strange disease, but the village he's lived in his whole life is not something that he could just up and leave on, so he helped the sick with his master. Originally, he took care of the patients with the village's resident doctor, but when the medicine ran out, he said he'd be back, but he never came, and he's still not there, so it seems that the herbs are incredibly hard to find, and he's glad to have met some wandering physicians. They finally arrive at the nearby village. The village protector welcomes them in, and as they enter, we see a kid sweating profusely, as he has a rash appearing on his skin. Mujin checks his pulse, and then notices how sweaty his hand is. He says that since he's sweating so bad, his pulse isn't just fast, with no strength, his ears are hot, but his hands are not, and the fire energy must be rushing to his head. Mujin asks if he's been vomiting, and they say yes, his head hurts, and he feels dizzy. Chung seems to be thinking about the situation, and Mujin says damp heat, rapid pulse, agitation, and vomiting is a disease of the epidemic heat type. They then ask what the prescription would be. Chung asks him what the exact name of the disease in the prescription is. Mujin says that it resembles summer heat fire, but is different, and it doesn't have that unique cool, sharp smell either. However, if left like this, the heat will rush to his head, and he will become an imbecile, or go blind, so, it is advisable to place needles in certain points. As for medicine, depending on his progress, it seems they can use a wide variety of herbs. Chung smiles, saying that he really has read the text well, and they should proceed with the acupuncture. Mujin looks worried, and reaches into his belongings. Taking out a needle, he finds the foot, saying it's his first time performing acupuncture, wondering if he's going to be able to do it well. Chung then points at his feet, and begins infusing qi into his hands, asking if he thought learning how to control this was solely for martial arts. To a physician, his keen sense of qi is a great fortune. Mujin now realizes what he means, as Chung is infusing the kid with his qi, and is allowing Mujin to be guided as well. He can see it as clearly as stones in a stream, and that this kid has a ton of death qi in his head. Chung says that he must have sensed that, and then he needs to perform the acupuncture, and observe how it reacts. Mujin starts pricking the kid's foot while following the qi. He then slowly starts going into the chest, and then the head. Chung watches. Then Mujin wipes away the sweat from his forehead, but looks worried about the kid. The kid then starts to pant, and Mujin wonders if he made a bad decision, but the death qi starts to exit his mouth, and Mujin's immediately relieved. The kid looks relieved as well, and everybody starts to gather around. Mujin sighs out of relief, and says thank God. Chung pats his shoulder, and Mujin looks up at him proudly. Chung says today is the day he learned many things, but seeing as he has the most satisfied face right now, he's truly become a proper physician. We see somebody lurking nearby as well. One of the villagers starts talking about someone named Physician Yum. Mujin asks about him. He says that when the disease spread, Physician Yum used his own savings to treat people, and he said that only herbs from a distant land would work, so he gave all of his money to herb traders. Mujin says that he's a good man. And the villager says that, hearing that, everyone else in the village pooled their money, and gave it to him, telling him to buy more herbs from the trader. But because herb traders don't come to a small mountain village like this often, he went to the mountains to find herbs to last till the trader arrived. He doesn't personally like Husin, and he did nothing but fool around all day, but if he hadn't guided the two of them here, his son would have died, and that his son's recovery has really eased his heart. They can stay here, and while the home may be empty, he hopes that it's not too uncomfortable, telling them to rest well. Inside, we see a kid's toy on the floor. As Chung begins analyzing the house, and saying that it was lived in, he spots the doll, and then starts to have thoughts, and we see his eyes look a little bit pained. He picks the doll up, and sets it on the table, and Mujin says that he must be a good physician. Chung asks if he means yum, and saying that it appears so, and they'll meet him soon. Mujin says that he doesn't know why such a disease is spreading in a village full of people, and telling him to look at all the food and gifts. Chung says they should just eat a little bit, and return it to them, as there's no need to burden them with their stomachs. Mujin says he understands, but asks him what he thinks the disease is. Chung says he knows of similar diseases, but something feels off, it might be a disease he's never encountered. Mujin's surprised one of the three greatest physicians doesn't know about it, and Chung says there are more things he doesn't know compared to what he does. Every time he learns one thing, 5 more things he has no idea about come up. Mujin says he thought he would know all of the diseases there were in the world. Chung says of course not, if he knew every disease, he wouldn't be traveling the lands. Mujin asks if there's a specific disease he wishes to cure then, and Chung says that there used to be one, he knows how to cure it now, but he was too late. Mujin asks what he's talking about, but then wonders why he's staring off at the doll. He then hears something, though, as there are cries off in the distance, howling throughout the village, and the lands. Mujin says they need to use medicine, but they don't know the diagnosis, and if they just knew what it was, they could fix it. Mujin says that he really wishes they didn't know it. Chung finally speaks up, saying that his wife and daughter died to an illness. One day his wife and daughter had a severe fever, and the red spots appeared all over their bodies. He took them to a physician, and even brought in the neighboring village's physician, who was well known for his skills, but neither of them knew the cure. While he was trying to find another physician, his wife and daughter died. It happened just 3 days after they fell ill. Mujin says he prays they have a peaceful afterlife. Husin says that he shouldn't, and it's not that depressing a story. In fact, he might chuckle when he hears what happened afterwards. He struggled after losing them, and he left his hometown by impulse, as if there was something driving him. About 10 days later, he arrived in a small village. It took that long because he wandered around like a beggar. It should have only taken him a day to travel from home, and that village had their own physician. He still remembers what he looked like so vividly. He looked like a rat, someone you wouldn't trust, the physician of your typical small village. He doesn't know why, but he told him about his wife and daughter's symptoms, and what he said lives in his head. If he gives him 5 coins, they'll be cured with the medicine, and it's no problem. Chung falls to his knees, saying that he had dozens of silver ingots in his pockets. With that much money, he could have paid for his daughter's marriage several times over. The simple truth is, the reason his family died wasn't because he lacked money, or got bad physicians, or because he lacked herbs. It was because the other physicians didn't know what this one did, asking if he's ever heard of such a laughable story, saying that's exactly what drove him to become a physician, to gather all the medical knowledge in the world into one place. After 30 years, he doesn't even remember what his family looked like anymore. He starts laughing, but obviously, he's not being truthful, as he can't stop staring at that doll, reminiscing about his daughter. Chung stares out the window, saying that his chuckle reminded him of the cries outside. Sometime later, he tells him that he's going to go look around the village to see if he can identify the source of the disease, and Chung says that he'll take a look himself, and join him, if he catches him slacking off, though, he's dead. Mujin tells him not to worry about it. They walk by some pigs who are just minding their own business. He then peeks into the well, and then down into a storage cellar for their food. He asks if they've finally arrived at the first house of patient 0. As they're staring at it, Mujin starts thinking about the disease. He says it's some kind of warm illness. Cold illness cools the body. In contrast, warm illness heats it up, though they may show different symptoms. They're both caused by a death key that is created in a shaded, cool, and smelly place. However, neither the pigs, nor the well, nor the storage had any of this. Mujin says that plagues typically spread outward from the starting point, and says just to be clear, he wants to know if this man got sick first, and if his neighbors fell ill after. Husin wonders if that was the order, saying that people in the western part fell ill first, so those in the west did fall faster than those in the east, and the children were more prone. Mujin says the clues don't add up, and asks if there's a difference between the western and eastern parts of the village, saying there must be a reason why it started there. Husin says that he heard that the east has more yang, while the west leans more on yin. Mujin says that's definitely not it, and they came from the west, but they didn't see a plague on the way, wondering why the children get sick faster. He says all the kids do is play with each other. And then Husin and his master think about it, saying that the kids often play in the stream over west. Mujin says it might be the water, but there was a well on the east, and the water there was fine. He asks if the well to the east is always dry. Husun's master says that only happens for a moment during the spring drought. Mujin asks if it was around then that the plague started. He says that now that he thinks about it, it would be then. Mujin says it must be because everybody used water from the stream due to the well drying up, and it would make sense for them all to get sick first if they were exposed to the water. Husun heads over to the stream, and leans down beside it. As he's staring at the water, he says nothing seems off, it's not cloudy, nor is there a stench, but the clues lead to the stream, and he wonders if the only way to sense the condition of the stream is to stare at it. He then scoops up a handful, and starts drinking it, and then meditates, circulating his ki throughout his body. Husun asks his master if he's ever seen a physician meditate, as Mujin's still just trying to focus. Mujin starts focusing on his organs, and the path the water is following, seeing if it will produce death ki, and it does. He says this is the exact same. He realizes it, and stands up, saying that he's figured it out, and they should all leave. As they head more, and more upstream, they cross by a waterfall. That old man almost died. They continue with all of them looking tired. And then Mujin smells it, asking if they can smell it too. They say they have, and it's getting stronger. Mujin says this means they're close, as they keep heading up. There's a purple miasma in the forest that starts to encroach on them. Mujin says that even the trees are dying, and they're close to the source. The grass is completely barren, and as they get closer, and closer, he spots it, as the ground itself looks like it's rotting away. Mujin says this is bad. He then starts to lose his footing as the ground ripples. They realize that there's something beneath them, and that there's something buried right here. Mujin says that in the medicinal warehouses there are countless deaths. The medicinal herbs are dead, the animals are dead, and yet instead of a rotten stench, the warehouse was filled with a comforting fragrance. It was a scent that he genuinely found pleasant. They are a death that harbors life, a fragrance that will soon become someone else's life. But that is not the case here, because this place reeks of death. It is filled only with a death that spreads more. But he sits here staring at decaying animal corpses, and wonders why, and who. As he, and the other two are beginning to dig up all of the animals, he says for now they should dig them all up, and move them away from the stream. Everybody agrees, that's the best course of action. Husun points out to his master that someone cut them up, and buried them, and Mujin says this is corpse poison, which causes all sorts of bizarre illnesses with even brief exposure, and that whoever did this knows the precise nature of corpse poison, and how it leads to a slow death, unlike poisons from toxic herbs, or minerals that cause instant death. The purpose of whoever did this, even as well as the timing of it with the well drying up, it is definitely completely intentional, in that what they seek is none other than annihilation, and he's afraid that these two in front of him might already be dead as well. They then hear footsteps, and Mujin turns, seeing a man getting closer, holding something in a bag. He asks what they think they're doing on the land that others have spent their money and effort on. This is none other than Yum. Mujin's caught off guard. He says that he would definitely know what results would come from using corpse poison, and he has a perfect grasp of the village's situation. He also only began charging money for his services after the illness began to spread, and that this dude is the culprit. With the face of a virtuous physician, he is nothing but an evil spirit that creates death, little by little, without leaving anything behind. His greed slowly began to swallow up the entire village. Annoyed, Yum brandishes his knife, and Mujin says for him to be so brazen even after being found out, he's going to beat him to death. Husun's master walks up, asking if he really admitted to doing this. He created the disease, and then pretended to treat it. As he holds up a goat's head to Yum, Yum just kind of brushes it off, saying that he's only ever done good for others until now, so he figured he'd take care of some personal business for once. Husun's master starts to get furious, and screams, asking if he has any idea how many villagers have died due to his stupid greed. He throws the goat head at him, but it gets sliced in half. Husun's master looks surprised as Yum is laughing. He says that as if he asked to know something like that, his two men pull up to protect him. Yum says what he does know is that these bastards have ruined his hard work, so they can pay the price for their bodies, whether it's today, or tomorrow. He was planning on throwing all of them into a pit anyways, and just think of it as them dying just a little bit earlier. Husun's master starts shaking with anger, to the point that he can't hold it anymore. He stomps forward, calling them scoundrels. The men who Yum hired instantly recognize based on the 4 knots on his belt that he is the beggar sex guardian, and he introduces himself as Maja Onge Hong Jian. His scream causes the three of them to freeze up, and Yum can't believe that he's a guardian. The dudes both turn around towards Yum, saying that he said they were just some small fries from the beggar sect, so why is a guardian here? Yum asks how he's meant to know. And Hong Jian widens his stance, saying that he's going to count to 10, and if those two small fry are still here, he will deal with them, but if they're not, then only Yum will have to suffer. He does not wish to add any more meaningless deaths to his village, so he really hopes that they all back away. He starts his countdown, and Mujin watches, saying that to think he can freeze his opponents with just ki is crazy. Husin then tells Mujin that now is the time. Mujin asks what he means, and Husin says he must escape. He will throw him across the stream, so he must flee immediately, and run to the village without looking back, and tell them what is happening. He is ashamed to ask for his help, but he begs him. Hong Jian continues his count, and Mujin says that he thought the two of them are a branch chief, and a guardian of the sect, which means that they are supreme masters, so they should easily be able to handle this. Husin asks what he is talking about. As Hong Jian continues his count, Mujin notices him shaking crazily, saying that means they are not. Husin says in any case he and his master must fight. Yum tells his two men to get over there, and if they are really trying to run away from a fight against an old man. Yum, still adamant about counting, Mujin can tell he intends to fight to the death, but wonders why, since he is a beggar, and not even strong, so why go this far? Mujin says that all three of them can escape together. Husin grabs Mujin under his arms, saying that with their levels of skill, they cannot escape while protecting him, and he should please protect the village. They have spent their lives living off the village, but they were never ashamed, because they survived without dying, thanks to what the villagers shared with them, and when the time comes, his master taught him that he must fight for the villagers regardless of what happens to his own life. The two men are scared of approaching, but Yum says that if they don't back out now, they will forget their gambling debts. They only live once. Hong Jian realizes that his bluff didn't work, and the two men charge in, saying that it's a do or die. Husin tightens his grip on Mujin. As the two men get closer to Hong Jian, he throws Mujin high up into the air to avoid this fight, and he begs that Mujin please escape. Even if it costs them their lives, Mujin asks what the two of them are going to do, and wonders if he should help, as the enemies aren't masters either. As they begin charging at one another, Mujin says they might be able to win if they fight together. Obviously, though he feels a bit anxious, he knows that his life could be cut short in an instant by either of these men. Just that thought alone settles in with him, and when he lands on the other side of the river, seeing how desperate Husin looks, Mujin starts running off. Husin instantly looks a little more relieved, and as Mujin is running away, he says this isn't cowardice, he is granting their request, as he was asked to deliver their last words, asking to save the village. He says that this is actually just bullshit, this is nothing but him running away, that Hong Jian and Husin are both going to die, and he doesn't know what he can do as someone who just started learning martial arts. He says that if he were a supreme master, he wouldn't be running away. He recalls his master, wondering what he would do, and is starting to feel conflicted, but recalls how neither of the beggars who are fighting right now are supreme masters, and he realizes that they're not running away. He straightens his back, and turns, saying that he can't just leave them. Mujin's panting as he's running back at full speed, and we see his eyes are actually full of determination. He says he once helped a kid who was bullied for being called stupid, and he got beaten up pretty badly, but he felt more proud than hurt. It felt like becoming a martial arts master standing up against injustice. He says the road feels so long on the way back. If the fight is over by the time he arrives, he can't help but feel nothing but regret, and he's filled with these cowardly thoughts, but he knows if he turns back now, it feels like his life will just be running away. He hears the sound of fighting, and finally makes it back to where he was, seeing they're both still alive. Husin and Hong Jian are holding their own, and Mujin says that he doesn't know how he's going to help, as the two of them are now back to back, both gassed out and tired. Husin looks a bit panicked, but his opponent seems like he's got this in the bag. He starts charging in, causing Husin to raise his stick, and the dude swings forward, hitting it. Husin then tries to push off the attack, but the guy uses it as a feint, and goes in for a side. He goes in for a full swing, which Husin notices, and narrowly ducks underneath. That was a very close call. The guy says this beggar sure is stubborn. He wants to see if he can run as well as he brags. He starts to cut around, and Husin does his best to avoid it, but we see it cut his leg, causing him to lose balance. The guy then tries to finish it, but Husin blocks the attack. Pissed off, the guy goes in for yet another attack, causing Husin to fall to the floor. Hong Jian yells out to him, telling him to snap out of it, and get up. The guy then swings at his head, but Hong Jian ducks underneath it, and the other dude asks who he thinks he's worrying about. Hong Jian combat rolls to the side. The dude says he's fighting so pathetically, and Hong Jian says rolling in corpses, or even shit would be 100 times better than wherever this guy holds himself, and at least it's better than how he's lived his life. The guy says it's already decided that he and his disciple will die, telling him just to give up, wondering if he really wants to see his disciple chopped up and turned into fertilizer, and it's ugly to cling to greed when he's this old. Hong Jian is looking at a part of his broken staff, and then glances back forward, watching how desperately Husin is fighting. Hong Jian asks how he's meant to give up, saying that's nonsense. He starts to make a mad dash for his stick, and the guy charges in, asking him where he thinks he's going. He swings down, which Hong Jian rolls out of narrowly. The dude tells him just to die already, but Hong Jian can't just give up when his student is still fighting just beside him. Hong Jian reaches down to the ground, grabbing some mud, and as he watches Husin kick his attacker away, he dodges his own attack, and thinks about the memories he had with him in the past, and then stands his ground. He turns, throwing the mud straight at the attacker, which he uses to close the gap. The dude says that he finally has decided to die, and he swings his axe down, striking Hong Jian in the back. Husin hears the sound of this, and turns in horror, watching blood begin flying. Hong Jian tightens his grip on his attacker's back, and screams out Husin's name, telling him that now is the time. The guy continues hacking away at Hong Jian over and over, but Hong Jian grits his teeth, telling Husin once more that this is the time for him to finally pay back his debt. Husin doesn't miss a beat, as he's already closed the gap with his weapon overhead. As Hong Jian's eyes start to go white, he sees the attacker coming in from behind Husin, as he is committing to his attack. Husin's attacker does as well, but something flies in, hitting him in the face, as we see it's none other than Mujin throwing rocks. The dude looks like he's about to get knocked unconscious from it, and Husin swings full force, hitting the other guy on the head, causing blood to fly out of his nose. He begins losing his balance before he and Hong Jian fall over, and the other guy starts to get up off the ground. Mujin looks over at Husin, and can't believe that he ran away in the first place, as the other dude who's still ready to fight, says that if he was going to run away, he should have stayed gone, and that he's just begging to die by staying here. He runs in, saying that he's going to chop him into pieces, but somebody else leaps in. Mujin is surprised, but looks a little relieved, as we see it's none other than his master Chung. He says that he came all the way to find the cure, as he's already cut the dude's head off, and his arm. He resheathes his blade, and Yum freezes up. Chung looks around at the situation, seeing Husin clutching Hong Jian. Then he understands now. He says that this must be the cause of the plague, but Mujin says that's not exactly it. The physician Yum is the actual mastermind. As he starts to freeze up, thinking about running away, Chung closes the gap in a second, and grabs him by the back of the head. He throws him onto the floor, and seems pissed off. He then asks him why he created the plague in the first place. Mujin walks forward as well, asking if it was really just for money. He starts stomping him, and Yum begs to be spared. Chung says that money can be sorted out later, asking what his real purpose is. Yum says that he seems to know something, and if he spares his life, he'll give him a medicine far superior to the village's, asking if he's ever heard of the black medicine. Mujin's surprised, and we learn the black medicine blooms in the chaos of the world, containing strong yin energy, though inferior to the highest grade medicine, the 10,000-year snow ginseng. Its fame rivals any other legendary medicine. It is often called the hero's flower, as it blooms on the battlefield within corpses. Yum says he'll give them his life's worth, and they both realize now what he means, as he's pointing to the cave, and we see a purple aura, as the black medicine is real. Mujin can't believe it, asking if he's really just offering his life as payment. As he goes to hit him, Chung stops him, saying that it's not about him offering his life. He's targeting the fact that ordinary people will die if they touch the black medicine, fooled by its allure. Originally, it is a medicine that feeds on death. That's why he gathered corpses. If the villagers all died, their corpses would have been food for the black medicine. That includes Mujin and Chung, and maybe he's buying time to hatch another scheme, pretending to harvest and process it while waiting to poison them. Yum says that harvesting it and processing it is very tricky, and he's going to do it for them. Chung says that he seems quite knowledgeable for a backcountry physician, and Yum laughs, saying that it's just a useless skill he picked up along the way, but Chung asks him what he thinks now, as he's not just an ordinary person, as he's already plucked it by the roots. Yum can't believe it, asking how he's able to touch it barehanded, saying that he knows he's going to die, which is ironic, because Chung sends his head flying in a single strike. As his blood begins filling the area, His head hits the ground, and Chung says whether he lives or dies is up to him. Chung wonders why shitty physicians keep popping up. As he's looking at Yum's head, he says that they think they're automatically a physician just because they learned medicine, and he can't believe that they have the nerve to act like that. Mujin, though, just asks if he's really okay with that. Chung says of course he is, and that he didn't get his nickname for nothing. He's going to absorb the poison from the corpses and the black peony, so he should take them and get back. As Mujin is walking away with Husin, he takes a look at his master, who begins cultivating. Mujin watches intently as he starts absorbing the yang energy from the flower, but he also starts to feel the ground shift, as he begins sucking all of the yang energy from the corpses surrounding them as well. Mujin can't believe it, as all of the poison is now being sucked in straight towards his master, and the chill he gets running down his spine is crazy. He says that he can tell how potent it is just from a slight breeze with it. As it begins to create a vortex around Chung, he continuously drains all of it from the corpses, and Mujin can't help but watch in amazement as the aura starts getting smaller and smaller, until it's at the point where it's dissipated. Mujin wonders if it's finally over, and Chung asks if he got a good look, as he needs to at least be on this level to say he knows how to circulate his energy, and he hands him the flower, telling him to take it. Since he absorbed the poison, he should be able to take it without any side effects. Mujin thanks him, and he deserves it for uncovering that physician's evil scheme. Mujin doesn't know about that, though, and Chung says all he needed was the poison. Mujin, still feeling guilty, turns around, looking at Husin and Hong Jian, and says that he really doesn't deserve this. He ran away, and came back to throw a single stone. The only reason he came back was because he was scared of being called a coward. Chung says that if he doesn't think he deserves it, then he points behind him, saying that maybe he does, because Husin sure thinks that he does, and he nods his head. Chung says it's harder to run away, and come back than to face something head on. It's something you can only do by facing your duty, and accepting your mistakes. Running away isn't that bad. The one who doesn't go is the fool. Run away as much as he wants, and then return to his place. It is enough for him to not turn his eyes away from his duty in the final moments. Mujin understands, and nods his head, as he looks back down at the flower. Chung wonders if he's realized too much of the essence of life, saying it's so profound you probably won't understand it. Mujin eats the entire thing, and Chung asks if he really just did that. Mujin says he did, and Chung asks why he would eat it now. Mujin says that he told him to take it, and he even said there were no side effects, before he instantly starts feeling it. As Mujin is holding back the energy, his master asks where in the world an idiot who shoves down an elixir without knowing a single proper cultivation method, other than him. Mujin says he didn't tell him not to, so he thought he meant to eat it now. Chung asks if he's going to do as he taught him with his divine art. He needs to plant his feet firmly in the ground, and do his breathing and energy exercises properly. Mujin asks how to do it, saying that he should teach him one more time. Chung sighs, saying that sometimes he seems so bright, other times he's just a dumbass, and he says he's not going to teach him anything else. He then hits him with a legitimate wall of text that I ain't reading, telling him how to do it. Mujin says he gets it, and Chung tells him to stop talking, and just do it already. As he starts to feel the aura coming out of it, Mujin does his best to focus as he takes a couple deep breaths. He plants his feet firmly before exhaling, and inhaling over and over. Chung turns as he starts to feel the aura coming out of it, and we see Mujin actually cultivating while walking. Chung smiles, saying that he should be able to settle the energy before they reach the village, as long as he's raised well, that is. Mujin continues, and says that this is the immense power of the black peony. Chung starts yelling at him, saying that he has a long way to go before he fully absorbs it, so he needs to continue practicing whenever he has time. Mujin says he understands. While they're bantering, Husin watches, but his eyes look full of sorrow, but also a little regretful that his master isn't here to banter with him. And when they return to the village, Mujin explains everything that's happened to the villagers. He says the strange illness will now disappear. If they drink the concoction, they should be able to get better in 3 days. Both Hong Jian and Husin took care of the culprits. Everybody starts applauding them, but of course Husin doesn't look happy about it, and they sweep away Mujin and Chung. Chung takes one glance back, and can tell how Husin's feeling, and nods his head, as Husin starts bowing to him. The crowd completely sweeps them away, and Husin stands there absolutely helpless, staring at all the footsteps from the villagers, and he walks away somewhere else in the mountains. Some time later, we see Mujin putting all of his ki into a stick, as he is practicing his martial arts, waiting for his medicine to be finished. He starts to try to recall how Chung did it, and Chung comes in, kicking his knees in, asking what he's going to do if the dust gets in the medicine, and if he's protesting for him to teach him swordsmanship, telling him to hurry up and pack his things, since they have a long way to go. Mujin asks why they are leaving when there are still patients, and they can just stay for 5 or 4 more days, because he loves the fact that he's getting treated like a hero. Chung tells him to snap out of it. They never planned on coming to the village in the first place, they only stopped by for a bit because Husin asked him to. Mujin says he hasn't seen him since yesterday, asking if he has. Chung says that after burying Hong Jian, he's probably just starving somewhere like usual. Mujin asks how he's starving when he's the hero who saved a village. Chung says it's a common fate for a member of the beggar sect who has killed someone, no matter how just the cause. A beggar who used to live on somebody else's whim beats someone to death, especially a martial artist, it's no longer begging. Mujin says he understands now, it's a tribute, and he wonders what will happen to Husin. Chung says he'll be the one to choose, as that is the nature of killing. As they are leaving, the villagers wave bye to them, and we see the kid they saved when they first arrived. Mujin waves, and they head off on their way, but Mujin can't help but think about what Husin's up to as they're leaving. He then looks up ahead of Chung, and spots something. He says that this is a graveyard. Chung says that there's one in particular they're looking for, as we spot Hong Jian's 2 broken sticks on the ground in front of it. They both put their hands together, and start bowing to the grave. Mujin takes a look over at Chung, who looks pretty regretful that he couldn't have been just a bit faster. They then hear footsteps, and he turns, seeing Husin, who says that he's greatly indebted to them, and he will pray for their journey ahead to be peaceful. Mujin asks if he's been here since last night, asking if he hasn't eaten yet. He then hands him some food, telling him to eat this, and wonders if he's going to keep living in the village from now on. Husin says he has too. It's the only place he's ever lived, and he has nowhere else to go, and it's a beggar's job to survive one way or another. Mujin recalls Chung saying that's the nature of killing, and tells him that he should go with them. Husin asks where, and Mujin says that he'll take him to a town where he can act like a beggar without anyone judging him, and that Hong Jian would have wanted that too, asking Chung what he thinks, but when he turns, Chung's already gone, and he starts to pull Husin, saying they have to go together, wondering how he can leave without a word. He says that he can't believe he's in such a hurry, and he tells Chung that Husin is coming with them too, and Chung tells him just to practice his cultivation. Mujin asks to learn swordsmanship, but Chung laughs at him, saying that he was just waiting for him to ask. We see he actually wrote something on the sticks as well. Husin asks where they're going, and Chung says that he must be a genius, as Mujin never wants to ask where they're going. Husin says that's an obvious question, and Mujin then asks where their destination is. We see that what Chung wrote was saying that this is the tomb of Hong Jian, and that he was a great hero. Chung also tells them that they are going to Lu Yang. Chung starts teaching Mujin the next thing, which is the heart-piercing sword. He says while the name is plain, it is a sword style closest to the essence. Among them, the stances that contain this essence are the sparrow wasp, the ivy, and point stances. These are the 3 that he needs to learn, as it creates a giant concentration of ki above him. Chung asks how it is, asking if they can do it. Mujin and Husin both say, hell no. Mujin screams, asking how he's meant to do that, and that nothing is possible just by him saying it. Chung says he's been teaching him for a whole month, asking how that's not possible. Mujin asks how he's supposed to set a tree flying in just 1 month. And Chung says that he's talking about the stance, not the rest of it. As they start yapping, Husin just watches. Mujin asks if it's like this, and Chung laughs, telling Husin to give it a try. Husin does, and Chung tells him to take a look, because that's how it should be. Mujin says it doesn't look that different to him. Chung continues to train him, and Husin just looks honestly happy. Mujin says it's only been a month of learning, and he's already so greedy. He's going to go to hell for that. Chung says he's the one who should respect his elders, and avoid hell. In the morning they trained in the secret serpent step, and until evening, moving only using the purple cloud steps, and when the sun fell, a month had passed with the heart-piercing sword sparring. There's been 30 matches, and Husin's won all 30 of them. The relationship he's observed between these two during this time is really strange to him to watch. At times they have an incredibly close master-disciple relationship, but in a flash they're like an uncle and a nephew busy mocking each other, and they're 2 people who seem to treat everything as a joke, but beneath that layer there's hidden respect, and expectation between the two of them, and I honestly really like the dynamic these two have together. He says that he also had a master just like this, and he holds up Hong Jian's knots to his chest, saying that he's grateful for everything he's done for him. Husin then tells Chung it's time for dinner, and Chung tells Mujin to take notes at how polite he is. Mujin sarcastically says to police partake in his meal, and preserve his jade body. They finally make it to the city of Chongqing, and Husin thanks them all for the help until now. Chung says that if they allow, they'll see each other again, and that if he's going to settle down in Chongqing, do not forget to change his name. By chance someone who knows about the village incident appears, things will be troublesome, even more so since he killed people regardless of the reason. Husin bows, and he waves them goodbye as it's time for their journey to go separate directions. Husin stands there, waving at them before the crowd starts to take shelter from the rain, and he's gone, just like Batman. Mujin says he can't believe he left just like that, and Chung says that he seems sad to let him go. Mujin says that it's his first friend after leaving Sichuan. Chung says that's true, and it's understandable he'd be sad since he's a friend he couldn't beat even once in their spars. Mujin gets pissed, saying that he almost won at the very end, but Chung disappears in a flash. Mujin starts yelling for him, and eventually finds him, saying that he needs to say something before he goes, and Chung says to just follow him. They head to the Fang family smithy, and the blacksmith asks if they really want to borrow his forge, and if the price is to watch Mujin work. Chung says that he gets to see the world's greatest metallurgy from a ringside seat. Mujin asks if there's any way somebody would ever agree to this. The smith thinks about it, and then tells them to go for it. He doesn't really care. Mujin just can't believe that it actually worked, but Chung says since they're borrowing it, he wants to borrow some materials, and firewood. The blacksmith says in that case, he should forge a sickle for him. Chung says that they'll do it, and Mujin asks why he's suddenly getting him to forge things. He's not some kind of circus monkey. Chung says to stop yapping, and make it. The condition of their deal in the first place was that he would pay for his medical and martial arts knowledge with goods, and that there's no way he's going to skip out on any amount's worth of tuition. Mujin says that he's never made a sickle before, though. As the smithy sits outside, the fire starts roaring, which catches him off guard, and he says that it's been a while since the fire's like this. At least he doesn't have to worry about the god of the forge getting angry. The hammering starts, and it instantly tickles his ears. He says the sound goes well with the rain, and the resonance is nice. It sounds like chimes. He doesn't know about the world's greatest, but he'll make a good blacksmith. He then starts to think about when he was young, and dozes off, but then when he opens his eyes once more, he's absolutely stunned, as there's a sickle sitting right on his lap, exuding the work of a master craft. His heart starts to race, and Mujin says this is the first time he's made one, so he's not sure if it turned out well. The smithy is in disbelief, asking if this is really his first time, and Mujin asks if it's enough to be considered pavement. The elder snatches it out of his hand, and raises it into the air. He then slices down between bamboo table, but when he stares at it, he couldn't even feel it cut, then it appears moments later. As it falls to the floor, the smithy looks back at the blade, and starts running away. Mujin's surprised, and asks the elder where he's going. Chung says that he should just get the forge ready to do the sword, they'll be here soon, and then laughs, saying that's not right, as they're already here. Instantly they're surrounded, and when Mujin turns back, he sees a bunch of old people who want their weapons redone, and touched up. The blacksmith holds up the sickle, asking him how the hell he did this. Mujin wonders how to explain it, and he can tell that all these other dudes just want to get their weapons fixed, because it turns out that the smithy Fang just ran around cutting all of their weapons, as they're all blacksmiths themselves, and he just cut through everything without a single nick on his blade, like they were made out of tofu, and that technique is something they would love to learn, and they'll do anything if he can make them that. They start telling him which one to make, and Chung steps up, laughing. He steps in between all of them, sticking out his hand, saying the entrance fee is 2 silver. They all kind of freeze up for a second, asking what he's talking about. Chung says that, further information, the kid will be forging a sword soon. They instantly start paying the money, and the forge starts ripping. Off in the city, we see Husin wandering the river, and he looks around, saying that this is his master's hometown. Just as his master told him, everything is huge, and he doesn't know if he can find the hemp field he said he often visited, and he spots some beggars hiding underneath the bridge. He looks down at his master's knots, and how happy he was to make it, and starts crying. He says he's trying to find someone who knew his master, and he approaches the group. Later we hear Husin thanking the branch leader for the talk, and he says that he's welcome anytime. Disciples of the beggar sect are always welcome here after all, and Husin bows as he's leaving. He says that he came because he heard the beggar sect was on the main street, but nobody knows his master. It's been 20 years since he left, so it's definitely possible. This is completely different from the beggar sect his master told him about, a branch leader for the beggar sect, and on top of that, they mention that to become one, they have to pay an initiation fee. It's an amount you can certainly earn if you work hard. He knows they are a righteous sect, but to have to pay money to become a beggar, there must be no one on this street who knows his master since things have changed so much. He then starts asking beggar by beggar if they know anybody by the name of Hong Jian, and they just keep shooing him away over and over, as he's continuously asking everybody. Of course he can't find a single person, and he leaves, asking if there's nobody left that remembers him. An old man runs by him, saying that it's cold, and Husin debates asking one more person, then asks, by chance, if he knows someone by the name of Hong Jian, as he was a not member of the beggar sect. He's probably here about 20 years ago. The guy says that it may be familiar, and asks if he was a really old man. Husin says that's him, and the guy says that the older brother who was unusually tidy for a beggar was always in the hemp fields. Husin says that's right, and the guy says he must have something wrong then, as he was only a 1-knot beggar. Husin is confused, and says there's no way, he could have been higher than a 3-knot, you need to know martial arts from the 3-knot rank onwards, and he never learned any, he was too slow, and clumsy, so he couldn't even find a master. That's how he got his nickname of Mahjong from rolling around in the hemp fields every day, and when he was about his age, there were some beggars looking for him. They said he stole something valuable when he ran away. We see Husin running through the rain, using it to cover his tears, as he left the guy mid-conversation. As he continues running, he looks down at the 4 knots of his master in frustration and anger. The storm begins raging, and he does his best to start pulling it apart, and he tries undoing the knots. He says that he can't believe he gave himself 1 knot for enduring hunger, and a 2nd knot because he recovered from a fever, and another just for turning 15. He says no wonder his martial arts were so shitty, and he starts to let out a primal scream, saying the whole damn thing was nothing but lies, and he's a beggar until the very end, drowned out by the lightning, as they are in sync. He then raises his hand to throw it into the water, but stops himself, and falls to his knees, saying that he wasn't even a guardian, and then he goes, and dies so he can't even confront him about it, and he wonders why the old man would try so damn hard, knowing that he was weak in the end. He shoves his hand into the water, and lets go of the knots, full of conflicted emotions, because he loved his master, and at the same time he can't believe he would lie, and he risked his life to save him, knowing just how weak he was. He sits there holding on to his stomach, crying in the sand while the storm continues. Back at the blacksmith, Mujin says that'll be all for today, and all the other smiths ask if it's really already over. Fang tells them all that they gotta go, because he needs to rest, and one of them says that he just has a question about fire control. We see Husin in the crowd, and Mujin spots him, and calls out to him. Husin, whose eyes are obviously all puffy from crying, sees him, and smiles. He tells him the truth, and Mujin starts listening to it. He can tell how Husin's stomach starts rumbling, and Mujin asks if he hasn't eaten, saying that he knows he's upset. He says no, a little girl named Sosin shared some of her meal with him, and that it's a little kid who lives under the bridge. He had no appetite at all, but he couldn't just refuse something given to him by a fellow beggar. Mujin hits him in the back, calling him an idiot, and saying that he's ripping off a little beggar kid now, and that they should go. Husin asks where to, and Mujin smiles, saying they're gonna go wash that beggar stench off of him. They head into the inn that he was at beforehand, and we're finally inside of it now. As we see, it's very lively. A woman's playing an instrument, and Husin's dressed up for the first time in his life, with a whole feast in front of him. Mujin yells his name, and says that he needs to drink until they die, as they start chugging the alcohol, and they then start spitting out pure fire. The lady playing the instrument says that these kids are so damn noisy. Mujin then starts making fun of Chung, and saying that he earned his reputation as one of the 3 great physicians, and if he leaves any food, he'll get a secret lethal palm to the solar plexus. Husin can't help but laugh at this, and they continue drinking all night. The music continues, and they're just having a grand time with the 2 of them, until they're eventually 4 bottles deep, and their plates are all gone. Husin says he can't eat anymore, and neither can Mujin. Husin asks how they're gonna pay, as he's only ever lived as a beggar. Mujin says obviously they pay with money, calling him a beggar bastard. Husin says he wonders how much it is, as he doesn't have a single coin. Mujin says he doesn't either, and they start laughing about it. Husin then realizes, and screams, asking if he really doesn't have any, and saying that this is a place run by the beggar sect. Mujin says so what, and he starts pretending to be Chung again, and Husin tells him to get real, and Mujin says when he's at his level, he doesn't have to worry about it. Husin wonders what he's talking about, and Mujin starts laughing hella loudly, telling him not to worry, as the payment starts now, as he pulls out a knife, and he stands behind the musician lady, and holds it out in front of him, obviously drunk out of his mind. The musician lady looks scared as she's looking at the blade, but Mujin starts cutting instantly. He makes a giant circle across the wall behind her. Husin yells, asking what he's doing, and the crowd starts cheering him on. One of the beggars walks over, calling out to him, asking what he's doing. As Mujin's measuring out the next cut, we see him hunched over, and the guy yells out to him. Mujin slowly turns like a horror movie, and the guy starts calling for the guards, but Mujin continues just using the knife, and the waiter tells the guards to do something. But Mujin is full in on this, because he's drunk out of his mind. The guards run in, asking him if he knows where this is, and some of the patrons say just to leave it, because it's really fun. The guards say that even drunk he should be graceful, as we see Mujin still chipping away at the wall. Mujin asks if they're really that surprised by his behavior, and as he throws his alcohol, and splashes it onto the wall, he says if they're so curious about what he's doing, they can see it themselves. Everybody's surprised, as right after we see an amazing sculpture in the wall, and Mujin continues to drink. He says that if they really want him to stop he can, and the guards tell him to continue. The music stops, so he asks why she's not playing anymore, as she should not ruin the Grandmaster's mood. Annoyed, she goes along with it, and now everybody understands that he's not just a drunk lunatic. While he's drunk, he's actually a master craftsman, as he's still chipping away. He continues refining his carving as the music continues, and everybody is enjoying their night, captivated by the sight. Mujin then raises his hand up high, and starts whacking at the board over, and over, until it starts to break apart, and the sculpture is now fully completed. And that is way more than enough for him to pay off the food, and drinks they had. I am honestly not sure what this statue is of. Mujin says today's drinks are on him, and everybody goes crazy. Mujin says Chung once said anybody with this talent would be welcomed anywhere in the world, and that was indeed the case, as the effect of the 1,000-headed guanyin was amazing. As people flew in from all over trying to buy his favor, Mujin smiled looking at Husin, and we see they're just going around getting to eat and drink for free, as he's continuously just showing his mastercraft at work. And this is the first time the two of them actually got a delivery, or got a whole lot of to-go boxes as well, as Husin took it to feed all these beggar people, especially the little girl who gave him food earlier. And Mujin watched super happily, saying that he's finally smiling properly. The rain continues, and we see them both laying down as they're starting to sober up. They start getting a hangover. Husin asks if they're going to drink again today, and Mujin says no, they should rest, and he can't even remember how many days they've been running straight, asking if he wants to go. Husin says no, the rain is just too much. Mujin laughs, saying that it's true. Then a man starts yelling out for Husin. They look out the window, wondering what it is. Husin recognizes him as a guy named Samgu. It turns out that Sion had disappeared, and she always tells them when she's going out, but this time she didn't say anything. She's far too timid to go out on days like this, and it must be the river pirates. Husin asks if he's certain, and Samgu nods his head, saying that children have been disappearing whenever they left their guard down. At first they thought they were simply swept by the water, but many have seen pirates taking children. Rumors say that unorthodox martial artists buy children for sick religious reasons, and if Sion was taken for that, she might already be harmed. Husin puts his hand on his shoulder, telling him to calm down, he'll investigate, and he knows someone who can help, he shouldn't worry, and just wait. Samgu thanks him over, and over, and over. Back at the inn, one of the guys who greeted him earlier says that he'll talk to his superiors, but he shouldn't expect much. Husin asks why, saying that children are being taken, and they should go help them. The guy says of course they should act, however they can't clash with pirates without proof, especially at this critical time. Husin asks what he's talking about, and says that he's quite different from the last time he saw him, and if their attitude changed because the leash is gone. The guy says that as an outsider he may not know. Every spring, flood season, all of the beggar sect is on high alert. Moreover, this year's rain is heavier than usual. Husin starts getting pissed, and the dude tells him to look out. If it rains like this for one more day, their river will surely flood over, Floods make people homeless, being swept away is common, and everyone in the sect is building dams to minimize damage, leaving no one to investigate pirates. Husin, obviously frustrated, doesn't know what to do, and the guy says he'll still talk to his superiors. He goes to tell Samgu, who asks if he really wants him to believe that the words of those who treat them like beasts just because they're not from the beggar sect, so they can't trust them. Husin can tell how frustrated he is, and Samgu says they're going to build the dams, and those up there don't care about them below, on the roads where people travel. Husin doesn't even know what to say, but says as martial artists, chivalry should be the thing they carry the most. Samgu says that those unorthodox sects, even the pirates, and their leader Madhu, are also martial artists, and those bastards don't have a single shred of chivalry. In 10 recent years, there's never been a fight between the beggar sect, or the pirates, and there's no way they'd risk their lives for some children who aren't of their sect, just because they changed into clean clothes, and managed to escape the life of poverty. They don't act like beggars anymore. Husin can't help but recall his master, saying that those bastards are all just liars, and there's no need for him to feel guilty. As the other beggars help Samgu sit down, Husin says that it's not even his duty, and he's done enough, and he did more than enough at his village too, but even that was just a liar's bravado. As he's walking by an old lady, she turns towards him, and asks if he's the one who's been looking for Hong Jian. He turns, surprised, and she says that her name is Granny Yong, wondering what his relation to that bastard is, and she says that his name was actually Zhang Jian. Husin can't believe he even lied about his name, saying that last he heard he stole something, and ran, wondering if he stole something valuable from her. She wonders what he's talking about, as he never had sticky fingers, but he did steal something else, saying that he used to steal people. Husin asks what she means by steal a person, and she says exactly what it sounds like. She supposes that it's been about 20 years, and asks if he knows about the conflict between the righteous faction and the rugged faction here. The current deputy chief of the central region, Hung Myonggae, is one of the righteous faction, and the deputy chief at the time was Ubong-gae of the ragged faction. You wouldn't think whether someone's clothes are clean or dirty would be a big deal, but even those feelings of it's not a big deal, just let it slide. When they pile up, they become a matter of life and death. One day a huge fight broke out, and in the chaos, Ubong-gae died. At that point, no one could stop it anymore. The ragged faction was driven out of the city that day, and that was the day that he fled, taking Ubong-gae's son with him. Husin now understands the situation, and Husin then asks what Ubong-gae's full name was. She says his name was Hong Yung, and seeing as how he's asking for the name, she guesses that he's not looking for him because of his son. If it's not about that incident, then fine, he may well be on his way, and this is all she knows about Hong Jian. If she happens to meet him, tell him she said hello, and tell him to look for her, if he ever comes back to the city. We see Husin drop the umbrella, and he's gone. Husin says that again. Everything he's figuring out about his master is nothing but a lie. Every time he figures something out, he wonders why he's always hiding shit from him. He begins crying, wondering why he had to do that in the first place. He goes to the water, and reaches into it, and he starts digging around trying to find the knots, desperately doing everything he can to find them. Every time he pulls something up, it's just seaweed, and all he wants to find is his damn straw rope. He dives under the water, but comes back up empty-handed. Before going back under once more, he holds his breath as tears fill his eyes, and he swims to the bottom, desperate. He says that Hong Jian, the protector of the beggar sect, was tied to uphold the rules. We see him fleeing with a young Husin, heading to the village. There he met a woman who was also taking care of a child, and he was able to learn from her. He also started Husin off at a young age, getting him to learn the ropes of the beggar sect, trying to teach him martial arts, and it was all for him to try to protect people. He died even protecting him. He was the man who tied the protector's cord himself, his master, as well as a father figure to him. As he finally sees the rope down at the bottom, he grabs onto it, and starts to swim back up with it. As he's getting closer to the surface, his vision begins to go darker, and darker, until someone else leaps in to pull him out. We see it's none other than Mujin, and they both get to the top, and let out a fat exhale. They're now washed up on the beach, and the rain's starting to let up, and they're coughing up the water. Mujin asks if he caught some disease, where he dies if his clothes are clean, and asks what the hell he's doing going for a swim in this weather. Husin laughs while holding onto the rope, and Mujin wonders what he finds so funny, but Husin can't help but laugh. He says that Mujin must help him out this one time. Mujin says he already saved his life, and asks what more he wants. and Husin says that they're going to go rescue Sion from those river pirates. Mujin asks what he's talking about, saying that he thought he would ask for something easier. It jumps to later, as we see someone's shaky hand holding a sword, off where we assume the river pirates are from. We see them putting up some sandbags to block the water. Off on the nearby cliff, we see it was Mujin who's shaking, as he and Husin are both a little afraid. Mujin really asks if there's not an easier favor, and if he has some kind of plan. Husin says he doesn't, and Mujin says surely he's not planning on just wiping them all out. Husin laughs, saying of course not, and he just wants to quietly find Sion and escape. Mujin says that's a good idea, and they just need to figure out where she is, but it must be one of the buildings. Husin says they must quietly sneak in and search. Mujin calls him a moron, saying sneaking in isn't the problem. His clothes are, they could spot him from 10 miles away. He says that maybe it'd be better if he smeared some dirt on them, and Mujin asks if that makes sense. There's no way looking dirty will make him look like a river pirate. Husin says that he'll take it all off, and they hear a step behind them, as we hear some people talking about how they'd rather build a dam, as it's better than dealing with a squad leader. Mujin and Husin both think that they're screwed, as the river pirates are doing patrols. Mujin says that's unexpected. Fighting here now is the worst possible situation, and his heart can't stop pounding. He just wants to wait for them to pass by quietly, but hearing their footsteps, they'll soon find them. He wonders if they should hide under the bridge, saying there's not enough room for both of them. Husin makes sure he stays quiet, and gets his attention. He starts pointing out where they should hide, throwing up gang signs. Mujin understands, saying that the sound of the rain should drown out most of the noise, and that he's surprisingly quick-witted. As we see Mujin scurry behind a rock, Husin is in the bushes opposite. They give each other the thumbs up, saying they succeeded. But then Husin starts to vanish, and Mujin wonders what he's doing, as he lets out a war cry, going in for a surprise attack at one of the pirates. He screams, going in with a full swing towards the two of them, clearly frustrated about the truth about his master, but also to show that all of that training from him wasn't for nothing. They both avoid the attack, and Husin realizes that he's in a bad spot, saying that they surely wouldn't be the twin hounds of Bangta, as they're glaring down at him. He looks back up, and furls his eyebrow, and Mujin says he can't believe that idiot would try this. If you've watched till the end, comment, crackling, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.